You're listening to Bringing an Ancient Faith to a Modern World with Father Anthony Messa, where we explore ways to encourage and equip the local Orthodox Church. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Bringing an Ancient Faith to a Modern World podcast. I'm Katie Karras, and I'm here again with Father Anthony.
It's great to be back, Katie.
So what are we chatting about today, Father Anthony?
So today we wanted to chat about one of the resources that we're working on for our Labor Day launch. And of all the things that I'm excited about STSA Ministries, there's one particular resource that I've been asked about like 1,000 times, and we're finally ready to release it, and that is our membership group package. Okay, now a little history here on where this product came from. We started the church back in 2012, and one of the things that we did from the very beginning was create some way for people to say, I want to be a member of this church. All right, there's lots of churches in this area, so people are, it's difficult to know, is someone a member of that church or that church? So we really wanted to find a way that people could say, this is going to be my home church, like I'm committed right here. So we developed, just a very simple membership class. Okay, we used to call it a class at the time, now we call it a group. And I can explain why later. So something just very simple. And then, that became like we started to revise it, and we went through several iterations. And that ended up becoming like one of like the foundational programs in our church. And others come from different churches and they hear me talk about it and they say, we need a copy of that. We need a copy. And I wasn't really comfortable sharing it because, again, it was just kind of something we created on our own on the fly. But after, 7 years, many iterations, we're finally ready to share it and make it available so that others can use it in their churches as well.
And I remember being a part of that first round of membership groups about 7 years ago. So you're going to have to refresh my memory. What is membership group all about? Okay,
so membership group, whenever I announce it, all right, I always say that there's two purposes for it, but there's kind of a third purpose, like a sneaky purpose. All right, so the first one is, an obvious one is informational. And that is just to make sure that if someone is a member of our church, that they understand what it means to be an Orthodox Christian. And, some people would say, well, I grew up in the church. No disrespect or anything like that to our churches, but, you can't assume just because someone grew up in the church that they have a proper understanding of Orthodox Christianity. So the first step is just to make sure it's a level playing field, that we all understand our faith at a basic level. Okay, this isn't like a seminary program, but just a basic understanding so that we all start with the same foundation. And a lot of times the information isn't learning, but it's kind of unlearning in that membership group where we unlearn the things that we thought were core principles, but, maybe not so much. So that's the first, is informational. The second purpose is to foster relationships. Okay, so informational and relational. And this is important because before STSA, when I was serving at a larger church, people used to come and join the church, and the way we used to incorporate them in was in a one-on-one context. So someone would make an appointment with me, we'd meet in my office, they'd read books, we'd discuss, and it was great. At least so I thought. But then we started to notice that the people who were so eager to join the church didn't last. And something happened between my office and kind of the rest of the church building, that once they left my office, they never felt like they fit in to the larger picture of the body. And because of that, we kind of came up with this system of, let's do membership group, and let's do it in a group. That's why we call it a group, not a class. A class you can do one-on-one, but a group you can't. It requires others. Let's do it in a group context so people don't just feel connected to me, the priest, Father Anthony, and not just connected to our church like in theory on paper, but that they would hopefully feel connected to the rest of the body through its members. So those are the first two reasons, informational and relational. And then the third, the sneaky one that I don't really announce, but I can share with you guys here on this podcast, is it's really a way to know who's committed to the church. And again, in this area, there's churches all over, and, people like to kind of hop here and hop there, 1 week here, 1 week there. Well, who are our members? Do we have 500 members? Do we have 200 members? Is everyone who attends church on a Sunday a member of the church? I don't think so. Like we're one of the few churches, when you ask us who our members are less than our attendees. Okay, so the number of people that you see on a Sunday, let's say we have, 400 people show up on a Sunday. I wouldn't say we have 400 members. I would say our members is the people, who have gone through the membership group and proven their commitment and said, I want this to be my home church. So that's how we help people we identify who truly is committed to us versus just want to attend on Sunday.
Well, that's certainly a new way of looking at things. I think normally when you say membership group in the context of an Orthodox church, all you're thinking about is a route to baptism. But the way that you're describing it, you're telling us that it's not just for church members or new church members that need baptism.
Correct. So this is the part that surprises a lot of people when they join our church. I stand up there. We do the membership group either 2 or 3 times per year. And I stand up there and say, it's anyone who calls this their home church should sign up for the membership group. And that includes whether you are born into the faith or you are just walked in off the street. So again, we want to stress the commitment to the church, all right? And that's why we want people who may have grown up in the church, we want to stress their commitment to our church and ask them to go through it. Also, again, we can't really rely on anyone knows just because they grew up in a church. That doesn't mean that they have a proper understanding. But then the other thing that's very near and dear to my heart is I don't believe in a class system. All right. I don't believe that our church is Catholic. Okay. We are one holy Catholic, not Catholic like Roman Catholic. We're still Coptic Orthodox, but Catholic in the truest sense of it is universal, and there is no ethnicity or culture that is higher or superior to another. Okay, that's one of the core tenets of Christianity, is the Catholicity of the church. So in that same way, when I say membership group, I'm saying for everyone. I'm not saying, oh, you're Egyptian? Okay, you get a pass. Oh, you're American? Okay, you sign up for this. You grew up in this church? Okay, you grew up in that church? No, sorry, you got to sign up for it. I don't like that class system. We're all on the same page. Also, I said earlier that one of the goals is like a relational goal. Well, what does it say about the relationships in the church if I say, all the Egyptians, you guys are over there, you're exempt. All of the Ethiopians, you have to attend over there. All of the Americans, no, you have to sign up for that. Anyone who grew up here, like you're creating division in the church. And I don't buy that. Okay, I don't buy that. And several people, in the beginning, they're like, I grew up in the church. I used to teach Sunday school. I'm a deacon. I got to sign up for your membership group. And I stick to my guns and I say, this is what it means to be a member of this church. And they finish the group and they say, you know what? We enjoyed it so much. We learned just as we didn't think we learned, but we actually learned a few things and we made great relationships along the way.
And it really affords an opportunity for the discussions to have a whole different dimension when you have people from different walks of life and different faith backgrounds coming together to discuss Orthodox theology and understanding.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure you'll agree, Father Anthony, but one of the best things at STSA is gathering together early on a Sunday morning for baptisms to welcome those new members into the faith.
Definitely.
It really brings our mission statement to life. And what makes it even more special is seeing the other members of that membership group class there encouraging those new members and giving them support. I think it's really powerful to go through those 7 weeks together. And I know I still remember everyone who's in my membership group and still call many of them my very close friends.
Yeah. And in addition, I'll give you like a fourth reason for the membership group. So like you said, Katie, it was great for you to get to know the others who are joining the church and them to get to know one another. But that's also where I, as the priest of the church, get to know everyone as well. Membership group is one of the few things in the church. Everything we do in this church, I feel like I start it and then kind of establish it and then hand it off to someone else. Membership group is one of the few things that I started it, had a plan to kind of transition it to someone else, but I haven't let go of because I absolutely love it for so many reasons. But one of the main ones is that's where I get to know people. And I teach, every single week in the membership group, I'm there. And that's where we go through 7 weeks together and I get to know you and know your story and you get to know me and my story because I share in the beginning, I ask everyone to share kind of who they are and how they got here. And then in the end, I share my personal story and how the church started and my wife is there. And it's like it's building that relationship. If someone is going to come to this church and call me father, then I should know their name and I should know their story and I should know their kids' names. And membership group, that 7 weeks that we have together, that's where we build that relationship and establish kind of the father son or the brother relationship in the church.
We talked about kind of the relational side of things, but let's break down the more educational aspect of membership group. The membership group program is really designed to lay out the foundation of our Orthodox beliefs. Can you chat a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the way catechism used to work in the early church, catechism just means when people wanted to join the church, how they would be instructed in the faith to become members of the church. The way it used to work is every year during Lent, those who are seeking to join the church would come for 40 days. And during those 40 days, they would fast, and there would be group prayers, prayers prayed over them as well as prayers together. And really, most people don't know this, but that's where the fast of Lent actually came from. It came from that people were joining the church and they were fasting, and the entire body would fast with them. All right, because they're welcoming new members in, so they would join in their fasting and in their prayer. And in fact, actually, the readings of the gospel on Sundays during Lent are all a journey of someone who is joining the church, because baptism would always be at the end of Lent, just before Easter. So really, even the Sunday gospels during Lent were put into place of someone who is coming and joining the church. So we take kind of that similar model, and that we do the membership group during Lent, as well as in the fall, the 6 weeks before Thanksgiving. So we do it twice a year in Lent. Sometimes we'll do a summer membership group, but not always. That really kind of depends on the circumstances, if we have too many people to fit in these two groups. So we follow that same model. We set aside a period of 40 days or a little bit longer. And what they would do during those 40 days in the early church is they would be taught the message of the gospel, all right, and there was no Bibles in print at the time, so people had to be instructed about Adam and Eve and the fall and about the salvation of mankind. So they would receive that instruction. They would also be taught the creed. They would be taught the Lord's Prayer, and then they'd be taught about baptism. And that became kind of like the rough outline of catechism in the early church. So we kind of follow the same structure. Session 1 begins with what I call the message of the gospel, where we will go through at a very high level. I talk about what does it mean to be a Christian. All right, I feel like that's like the first umbrella. And then after what does it mean to be a Christian, we spend the next 5 sessions, the smaller umbrella under there, what does it mean to be an Orthodox Christian? So the first one, the message of the gospel, is kind of the story of salvation of man. Starting in week 2 through week 6, that's where we talk about specifically our Orthodox faith. And we'll spend 2 weeks on the creed. We'll break that up, part 1 and part 2. And, the first of those will be on God the Father and God the Son. The second week will be on God the Holy Spirit, and then the Holy Church. So that'll be the creed part 1, creed part 2. Then we'll talk about the Lord's Prayer. And the Lord's Prayer is the way that we practice our faith. So we learned about our faith in the creed, and then we practice our faith through prayer, and the Lord's Prayer is kind of guides us into that relationship, how we experience it with God. And then session 5 will be on baptism, but we incorporate more than just baptism. We kind of broaden it to say the mysteries of the church, including baptism. So mysteries or sacraments of the church, and what does that mean? And then the final session, which we added in there, is about the Eucharist, because everyone who's coming to our church, this is really where they're like, we don't understand the Eucharist, and we don't understand what's going on. So we have a special session on that, on the liturgy of the Eucharist, to prepare them not just to receive baptism, but also to receive Holy Communion as well. Those are like the first 6 sessions. And the 7th session takes place after baptism. So if someone so again, during Lent, we would do those first 6 sessions during Lent, during the time of fasting. And then there'd be baptism for those who need baptism. And then Easter would come. And then either the week after or 2 weeks or whenever we can schedule it, we'll get together for a celebration. So if the highest umbrella was, what does it mean to be a Christian? The second umbrella, what does it mean to be an Orthodox Christian? The third umbrella is, what does it mean to be an STSA Orthodox Christian? And specifically, we tell the story of how the church began, its mission, its vision, its core values, its history. That's where, like I said, I share my story. And the people get to know not just the faith in general, but specifically who we are as a church.
And that seventh session is something that's really going to be customized to each individual church, depending on the mission and vision of that church and their particular story, right?
Absolutely. And we will tell you how we do it, and we will kind of give you an outline so that you can customize it for your church as well.
Well, that's a lot of information to jam into one membership group.
I mean, it could be worse. Like when we were researching this at the beginning, we found that there were two models of how people did, membership in their churches. Some churches did like a 56-week kind of a thing, and they wanted to make sure that the people joining the church knew everything about everything that there could be. I looked at that and I said, you know what? I can't. I think that's a high barrier. And in addition, I couldn't make that to reconcile with what I see in the scriptures, which is that people in the book of Acts were joining the church not after they knew everything, but after they knew the core, the essential part of the faith. So if you kind of do, there's like two extremes, like the 56 sessions, and then others will do like a half-day session where it's just kind of, people going in without really knowing. We feel that 7 is a good number. Of course, 7's a holy number, so you never go wrong with 7. We feel 7 sessions is a good number for people to learn the information that is essential to our faith. Okay, again, it's not everything that they need to know, but one of the things, again, that we emphasize, maybe this is a later resource down the road, is continual learning. So the 7-week membership group will kind of give you the basis and the foundation, but you should hopefully continue to grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ, as St. Peter says. So, kind of continuing education, we have a program in place for that. So 7 is a good number for people to learn the base, build those relationships, and show the commitment to the church.
And all of that is going to be wrapped up into a package available Labor Day weekend?
Absolutely. That's our goal, is that everyone who is at the open house on Labor Day weekend will get a first crack at these materials, and they'll hear me speak about it, the specifics of it, the lessons learned, answer whatever questions that you got. Our hope is to give you everything that you need to be able to customize and implement it in your church as well.
Well, we'd love to have everyone join us for that open house. If you'd like more information, you can find it at stsaministries.org. And if you have any questions or want to get a group together and get a group discount, you can email us at ministries@stsa.church. Thanks a lot, Father Anthony. This has been great. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks for listening. For more information and to register for the STSA Open House, please visit stsaministries.org.